Today we take a detailed look at one of the most unique rides at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the Steeplechase Rollercoaster. Picture this: a fresh sea breeze off the Irish Sea, the distant cry of gulls overhead, the clatter of coaster wheels, the shriek of laughter, and the unmistakable smell of donuts frying near the promenade. You're at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the beating heart of British seaside entertainment. And just tucked away, past the towering Big One and the intertwined steel of Infusion, stands something rare, something no other park in the world can boast. 3 lanes, 3 horses, 1 race. This is the Steeplechase. To call the Steeplechase a roller coaster is accurate, but it's like calling a brass band just music. It's got soul, history, it's got that feeling of doing rather than just sitting back. The ride itself is wonderfully eccentric. You mount a deep beige, white or grey horse on a bright red, yellow or green track and sit astride it like a real jockey. There's a safety belt, but no cockpit, no enclosure. It's just you, the wind, the ground and the gallop. Once the start lights flicker green, you're off. 3 tracks diving and curving in parallel, racing toward the final bend. Every ride can be similar, but unique depending on your horse and track. It's the only one of its kind left in the entire world. Now that's not just a Blackpool oddity, that's a living racing relic. To understand the Steeplechase, you've got to go back, way back, to the golden age of seaside amusements. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as holiday makers flocked to the coast for fresh air and frivolity, amusement parks sprang up across Britain and the United States. One of the earliest thrill rides ever made was the Steeplechase, a horse racing simulator. The most famous of these was in Coney Island, New York, in the 1900s, where guests would straddle wooden horses that glided down sloping rails. There were no restraints, just hang on tight and hope for the best. Before we get started on Blackpool's Steeplechase ride, let's talk a little more about its predecessor. And with a ride that not only gave the park its name, but also fame. Back in the 1890s, Coney Island was the playground of New York's working class, a blur of bathers, barkers and beer. But one man saw more than sand and sausages. That man, George C. Tillieu, part showman, part visionary and full-time prankster. Tillieu had seen the Great Ferris Wheel at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair and came back to Brooklyn buzzing with ideas. But he didn't just want big wheels and bigger lights. He wanted a park built on mischief, mechanical mayhem and belly laughs. So in 1897 he opened Steeplechase Park and called it, cheekily, the funny place. The Steeplechase horse ride wasn't just a thrill, it was a race. A high-speed, gravity-defying gallop over steel rails that turned every rider into a jockey. Picture this: you're straddling a life-size metal horse, one of several lined up on parallel tracks. A bell rings, and then, whoosh, you're off. The horses lurch forward, spring-loaded and greased for speed. They race side by side, dipping and rising over gentle hills, curving along elevated rails in full view of the cheering crowds. No steering, no brakes, just wind in your face and your knees clamped tight. It wasn't just the speed, it was the spectacle. People would bet on which horse would win each run, even though it was more or less random. Some would shout advice, others would clutch their hats or bonnets. But everyone agreed it was exhilarating, and it was just tame enough to bring in the ladies, and cheeky enough to make it romantic. Many a couple had their first laugh, or first fall, atop those galloping metal steeds. But Tillieu didn't stop there. The Pavilion of Fun, a massive glass house stretching the length of a football pitch, turned ordinary visitors into laughingstocks. Literally, there were spinning barrels you had to walk through or fall through, slides, wobbling bridges, spring-loaded stairs and the human roulette wheel, where you'd sit down and promptly be flung across the floor like a drunk teacup. And then there was the Blowhole Theatre. A ringmaster in a clown suit would operate levers to squirt at you with air, flip your chair, or drop you through a trapdoor, all in front of a live audience. Humiliation was the show, and the crowd loved every minute. Many times you could hear chuckles of her bloomers almost flew up to her armpits, till you believed that laughter was democratic. At Steeplechase, rich and poor alike were made to look foolish, and that he thought was good for the soul. Then came the fire. In 1907, flames ripped through the park. Nearly everything burned to the ground. But Teal wasn't about to give up. He hung a sign that read, "To inquiring friends, I have troubles today that I did not have yesterday. I had troubles yesterday that I have not today. On this site will be erected shortly a better, bigger, greater Steeplechase Park. Admission to the burning ruins, 10 cents. And he did. By 1909, the park was back, bigger and bolder, with improved fireproofing and even wilder attractions. The steeplechase horses got longer tracks, the pavilion grew glassier, the laughter only got louder. By the 1950s and 60s, America's taste had moved on. People were driving to Disneyland, not taking the subway to Coney Island. The old-style fun, the slapstick and the silliness felt, well, dated. In 1964, after 67 years of thrills, the Till family sold Steeplechase Park to Fred Trump. Yes, that Fred Trump, Donald's dad. Fred didn't see magic. He saw real estate. He tore the whole place down in a demolition party, where bikini models smashed the pavilion with sledgehammers. The steeplechase horses, gone. The glass palace, rubble. The laughter, silence. Trump tried to build condos, but the city blocked him. And for decades the land lay empty, a ghost of joy past. Trump tried to build condos, but the city blocked him. And for decades the land lay empty, a ghost of joy past. Today, there's only one thing left of Steeplechase Park. The towering parachute jump, built in 1939. It stands rusted but regal, like a forgotten lighthouse, watching over the boardwalk. But the spirit of Steeplechase lives on, in every theme park that invites us to laugh, to scream, to race side by side with strangers and forget for a moment who we are. And in the echo of hoofbeats, if you listen closely, you might just hear the steeplechase horse racing once more. However, the story of Coney Island's amusement parks did not end with the closure of Steeplechase Park. Despite years of uncertainty, the spirit of Coney Island has continued to evolve. In September 2003, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the New York City Council, and Brooklyn Borough President Marty Markowitz established the Coney Island Development Corporation, CIDC. 2 years later, the organisation unveiled the Coney Island Revitalisation Plan, an ambitious vision designed to preserve the area's rich amusement heritage while encouraging new investment and attractions for future generations. The end of one era came in 2008 when Astroland, which had entertained visitors since 1962, closed its gates for the final time. For one season in 2009, the site remained alive with a travelling carnival operating under the name Dreamland, ensuring that the sounds of laughter and excitement never completely disappeared from Surf Avenue. The original Dreamland was one of Coney Island's most spectacular amusement parks, operating from 1904 until 1911 in Brooklyn, New York. It was the last of the 3 great amusement parks to be built on Coney Island, joining Steeplechase Park and Luna Park, and quickly became famous for its grand architecture, dazzling electric lights, and elaborate attractions before its tragic destruction by fire in 1911. A new chapter began on 29 May 2010 with the opening of Luna Park. Built on the former Astroland site, the park took its name from Coney Island's legendary 1903 Luna Park, one of the most famous amusement parks in history. Although entirely modern, it was designed to celebrate the traditions that had made Coney Island a worldwide icon. Perhaps the greatest tribute to the past arrived in 2011 with the opening of Steeplechase, a launched steel roller coaster at Luna Park. While it is very different from George C. Tilleu's famous horse racing attraction, the ride proudly carries the historic Steeplechase name and theme, featuring 2 trains, each made up of 6 cars seating 12 riders. It gives a new generation of visitors the chance to experience a piece of Coney Island's remarkable legacy. The original Steeplechase ride may be gone, but its name and the spirit of innovation and fun that George C. Tilleu created more than a century ago continues to race on at Coney Island. Wacky Soapbox Racers also holds a unique place in roller coaster history. Along with the Steeplechase at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it was one of only 2 Arrow Development Steeplechase coasters ever built. Wacky Soapbox Racers was a steel quad steeplechase coaster at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. It delighted guests for 2 decades, operating from 1976 to 1996, although it originally opened under a very different name. The ride debuted on June 12, 1976 as Motorcycle Chase, featuring motorcycle-themed vehicles that raced around a twisting track at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour. However, following concerns about the motorcycle theme, the attraction was extensively rethemed and reopened on July 4, 1980 as Wacky Soapbox Racers. Manufactured by Arrow Development, the coaster stood 27 feet tall and stretched for 1,778 feet. Following the re-theme, the maximum speed was reduced to 30 miles per hour, with riders racing in colourful soapbox cars instead of motorcycles. Each vehicle seated 2 riders in a single-file arrangement, creating the feeling of competing in a downhill soapbox derby. The attraction's greatest appeal was its racing format. 4 parallel tracks allowed several cars to compete side by side as they sped past grandstands, over rolling hills, through breakaway doors, and alongside animated scenery complete with sound effects, making every ride feel like a lively competition. The coaster closed in 1996, with the site later becoming home to Windjammer surf racers, before eventually being redeveloped for Accelerator. Although the ride itself has disappeared, one of the original soapbox cars has been carefully restored and is occasionally displayed in Knott's Berry Farm stores, preserving the memory of one of the park's most distinctive and innovative attractions. Now only one remained. Built not in America, but here, right on the Fylde coast. Blackpool Pleasure Beach's Steeplechase opened in 1977, part of a wave of innovations overseen by the park's visionary owner, Geoffrey Thompson. Geoffrey was a man of bold tastes and boundless energy. He believed the Pleasure Beach should offer something for everyone, from towering thrills like the Grand National to gentle family fun and unique one-offs. The Steeplechase was a perfect fit. The timing wasn't accidental either. 1977 was the year of Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, and the country was swept up in a wave of celebration. Blackpool, as ever, responded with style. What better way to open a horse racing themed ride than by bringing in a real-life racing legend? On the 2nd of August 1977, Red Rum, an Irish champion thoroughbred steeplechaser. He achieved an unmatched historic treble when he won the Grand National in 1973, 1974 and 1977, with seconds in 1975 and 1976. The Grand National is a notoriously difficult race that has been described as the ultimate test of a horse's courage. He also switched on the Blackpool illuminations that year by walking through a photo finish laser beam. You can even still see his hoof print set in concrete next to the ride, and there is a statue in the Wayfarers Court shopping arcade in Southport. He died aged 30 in 1995, but his legacy lives on. And here's a fun twist of fate. The Steeplechase sits right next to another classic ride, named after the famous Liverpool race, the Grand National Wooden Coaster, which has been thrilling riders since 1935. Side by side, these 2 rides are like Blackpool's own racetrack. Behind the scenes, the engineering work was handled by none other than Arrow. Development, the ride company behind some of the world's most iconic attractions, including rides at Disneyland, and early tubular steel coasters that changed the face of theme parks forever. Arrow were pioneers of innovation, and their design of the steeplechase was clever. Each horse rides on its own track, a tubular steel rail that bends and dips just like a roller coaster, but with smoother, more graceful curves to mimic galloping. Aerodynamics was one of the most influential amusement ride manufacturers in history, pioneering many of the technologies that transform modern roller coasters. Based in Clearfield, Utah, the company specialised in the design and manufacture of roller coasters, thrill rides and transportation attractions. It was the successor to Arrow Development, 1946 to 1981, and Arrow Huss, 1981 to 1986, before adopting the name Aerodynamics in 1986. The company's origins date back to 1946, when engineers Andy Anderson, Carl Bacon and Ed Morgan founded Arrow Development in California. Initially producing carousel parts and amusement equipment, the company soon gained a reputation for innovative engineering. Its biggest breakthrough came through its collaboration with Walt Disney, helping to create attractions for Disneyland during the 1950s. One of Arrow's greatest achievements was the construction of the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland, which opened in 1959. It was the world's first tubular steel roller coaster, replacing the rougher railroad-style rails previously used on many coasters. This revolutionary track design provided a much smoother ride and became the standard for virtually every modern steel roller coaster built since. Throughout the 1960s, 1970s and 1980s, Arrow continued to push the boundaries of coaster design. The company developed mine train coasters, log flumes, suspended rides and transportation systems before introducing some of the world's most iconic thrill ride innovations. Arrow was responsible for building the first modern looping roller coaster, Corkscrew, at Knott's Berry Farm in 1975, proving that vertical loops could be ridden safely using clothoid loop technology. The company also pioneered the Steeplechase coaster, created the first successful suspended roller coaster, and later introduced the Mega Looper, Hypercoaster, and Fourth Dimension coaster, with X Squared at Six Flags Magic Mountain becoming one of its final engineering triumphs. Many of Arrow's coasters became legendary attractions around the world, including Big Bad Wolf, the Bat, Magnum XL 200, Nessie, Viper, Tennessee Tornado, Dragon Mountain, and the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which, when it opened in 1994, became the tallest and steepest roller coaster in the world. Despite its engineering success, Aerodynamics faced increasing financial pressures during the late 1990s. Competition from newer manufacturers and the rising cost of increasingly complex roller coaster designs eventually led the company to file for bankruptcy in 2001. Many of its assets and intellectual property were later acquired by S&S Power, allowing elements of Arrow's engineering legacy to continue. Today, Aerodynamics is remembered as one of the true pioneers of the amusement industry. Its innovations, from tubular steel track and modern inversions to suspended coasters and hypercoasters, helped shape the evolution of roller coasters worldwide, and many of its creations remain popular attractions decades after they first thrilled riders. The ride begins with a modest lift hill. Riders reach the peak together like racers at the starting gate. Then, with a clunk and a jolt, the race begins. The horses veer into separate lanes, taking tight bends, sudden dips, and mini airtime hills as they race toward the final straight. At the end, the three tracks merge once more, bringing the racers back together, just in time to shout about who won. The steeplechase may seem simple on the surface, but its operation is finely tuned. Each horse has its own electric motor, housed in the belly of the ride vehicle. They're powered by a contact rail system that keeps the ride energy efficient and under control. The motors ensure each horse finishes safely, and the timing is slightly varied each time, so it's not always the green horse that wins. Under the track, engineers work tirelessly to maintain these rare machines. Replacement parts must often be custom built, since there's no modern equivalent. It's a labour of love. In winter, when the park closes, the steeplechase is stripped, serviced and tested, part of the delicate dance that keeps this 1970s marvel alive for future generations. In fact, this narrator has one in her very own garden, stripped down and repaired. A unique garden bench indeed. In summer, many a neighbour's cat likes to sunbathe upon it safely above my dog. If you talk to regulars at the pleasure beach, or the folk who have been going since they were kids, they'll often have a memory of the steeplechase. Me dad always had to ride the red horse. Our man once screamed all the way around. I won the race 3 times in a row when I were little. It's a rite of passage, passed from parent to child. A race that never grows old. Of course, you also get those that find it more thrilling to watch than ride. Let's pause here and say it loud. The steeplechase at Blackpool is now the only original steeplechase style ride left in the world. It survived decades of change. It watched the Pepsi Max big one rise behind it, Valhalla roar nearby, and the ghost train continued to haunt just across the way. Through it all, the steeplechase has trotted on, steadfast, unchanged, beloved. So what lies ahead? As Blackpool Pleasure Beach continues to modernise, there's always a question: how long will these historic rides last? But unlike other parks that have sacrificed heritage for innovation, Blackpool values its past. The Grand National has been refurbished, Valhalla reimagined, and the scenic railway remembered. The steeplechase is part of that story, part of that heritage. Fans have called for a refurbishment, fresh paint, perhaps a commemorative mural, or a reinvention of the station with a grandstand theme, maybe even animatronic horses at the loading area. The possibilities are endless. But one thing's for certain, as long as there are kids daring to race their siblings and grandparents chuckling as they bounce in the saddle, the steeplechase will gallop on. So next time you find yourself at the pleasure beach, skip past the big steel beast for a moment. Wander over to that trio of colourful horses, saddle up, take a breath, and race, not for speed, not to win, but to be part of a living, breathing piece of amusement history. Because in a world of flash and frenzy, the steeplechase reminds us what fun used to be and why it still matters. Thanks for listening, and may the best horse win. Let me know your favourite memory of the steeplechase in the comments below.